Okay, short video, triggering a particle system based on a collision. So think of like your playable character grabs a coin or a ring and a little sparkle appears. So that's what this video is going to be for. I haven't done anything other than create the particle system itself. These two pieces are also part of the particle system. I jumped ahead and did that because the video really isn't meant to get into the sculpting of particle systems. It's really about just triggering that functionality. So let's get to it. So let's take our playable character, drag them into the scene. Going to do a couple things. We need to give them a box collider. That way they can collide with the other object. And we need to give them a rigid body to give them momentum. Going to give it a -1 and a 4. You're probably going to use different settings for the rigid body in your project. This is just so I don't have to get into any kind of complicated player control. It will just automatically move on its own. So let's just take a quick look at that. So it gives it momentum. Now let's take our particle system. We'll drag and drop it onto the character, which makes it a child. So by drag and dropping an object onto another object, it makes it a child. So now it inherits whatever is done to the parent for the most part. So if the parent moves, the child moves. If the parent rotates, the child rotates without any additional commands, just by linking it like that. So we'll see that too. Next, we're going to create the object that we want it to collide with. So we're going to add to that object, again, physics 2D. This time we'll use a circle collider. Very important, trigger needs to be set because we don't want it to be solid. We don't want it to be like a soccer ball. We want it to be a solid object, because if we don't do trigger, when the player collides with it, they'll kick it, they'll knock it around the screen because it's solid. So it's important to set it as a trigger because you want it to be picked up. Now let's copy and paste that. So we have another one so you can see the effect a couple times. Okay. Now let's get into the scripting. So we're going to click on our hero, do new script, and we'll call this, we'll just call this control. Now I already typed out the code separately because I tend to make mistakes when I'm typing, so I'm just going to go back and forth between the notepad file and the actual script, but I will explain everything though. So first thing, we're creating a transform type variable. The reason for that is we want to be able to have, even though the script is attached to the hero, we want it to access that particle system and make changes to it. So even though it's a child, it's not directly making changes through it. The child is just inheriting the rotation and the direction that it's moving in. If we want this object to actually make changes to this object, then we need to create a variable. So that's what we did. The variable is a transform type since it's an object. Now, very important, in this case, as you can see, the variable is there. You need to drag and drop the particle system from the scene. There are times when, if you're going to instantiate an object, then you need to grab the prefab. So it's very important to understand the difference. We're not instantiating it. It's already going to be created at the beginning of the scene. So when the scene starts, it's already there. We're not going to repeatedly instantiate it. I had thought about doing that, but I realized that this is probably a simpler and cleaner way to do it. So, like I said, you create the variable for the object, drag and drop the object from here, and let's continue. So in the start, we're going to use get component, and this is something you're going to see me use a lot. Basically, we take this variable, so here it is, and what we're saying is for this object, get a certain component. What component? Get the particle system. What are we going to do to that particle system? We're going to make a change to emissions. So are emissions enabled? No. So it's set to false. So in other words, at start, we shut off the emissions. So let's run that now so you can see how it's different. No emissions. Nothing is done in the update section. So we actually, if you want, you can delete that. Don't have to, you can. Since this is going to be part of a larger project for you, then you probably don't want to delete that, to be honest. But for this demo, it's not necessary. Now, Ontriggerenter 2D is a predefined routine, so it has to be exactly like this. Capital O, capital T, capital E, capital D. And it's very important. Enter. Ontriggerenter. So if you recall, we said that it's a trigger. If you don't make this as a trigger, this won't work. So Ontriggerenter 2D. And enter refers to just the frame in which the collision occurs. If you want something to check again and again and again while collision continues to occur, like say someone is walking through a particle system that's poison gas, and as long as they're in it, you want them to continue to get damaged. I believe that's on trigger stay. I'd have to check that. I'm not certain, but it would not be on trigger enter. Enter is just the one frame in which it first occurs. So same statement, except we're setting it to true. And now we're saying start this coroutine, and this coroutine is going to be a system of our creating. So again, we save, but we can't run it because it doesn't know what to do with this. And we're already at the end. IEnumerator is a great way to delay an event from happening. So IEnumerator, and here's the name we chose, stop sparkles. As you can see, it matches that. So when it gets to this line, it knows to come down here. Yield, return, new, wait 4 seconds. Functionally, this is really the only thing that matters from that mouthful. Yes, these are absolutely necessary, but this is really what you're looking at. Wait 4 seconds. And in this case, it's 4/10 of a second, and since it's a decimal, you need to put in the letter F. And once again, that same command all over again, setting it back to false. That should already do it. There you go. The only thing that would be left is you could add a script that makes the rings get destroyed once they touch them. You can do it either way. You could put a script on the bullet that says on collision, and if the name of the object is this, then be destroyed. But might add another video for that. But that does it. So the particle system gets not instantiated, but it gets turned on and then shut off based on a collision.